Before you start planning your next film, the very first thing that you should do is set some goals. Where do you want your film to go? What is the end game? Is it festivals? Is it an online release? Or maybe it is something else entirely. Today we're going to be talking about setting goals as a filmmaker and why this step is crucial. So let's start off with the big question. Where do you want your film to be shown? When you imagine the idea in your head, where do you see it? Is it at the Cannes Film Festival? Is it at a local cinema? Are you just going to play it in your lounge room for yourself and your friends? Where is it actually going to be shown? So that is one of the important goals to figure out early on. If you are eyeing a specific festival, then it's important to understand what their rules are early on, so that when you are actually making your film, you can adjust accordingly. Some festivals will have a premiere status rule. For example, a film festival may perhaps have an international premiere status rule, which means that your film cannot have had a premiere anywhere in the world, otherwise it will be ineligible at that festival. Some of them might also have national or perhaps local premiere status rules, which means that if your film has been premiered in that same country or region, then it can't be shown. Although if your film was shown in a different country, then it can still be submitted to that particular festival. Understanding these rules up front help you understand when and where to showcase your film. And it's not just about the premiere status rules. Festivals have all kinds of other rules that you also need to keep in mind. Some of these will be about the film's duration. There will of course be submission deadlines. Other film festivals might have certain themes that your film needs to fall under, or of course there might also be just genres. You might be a horror film festival, for example. It might be an action film festival. It might be a film festival where 50% of the crew needs to be women perhaps, or some film festivals are dedicated specifically to a certain city or an area. And some film festivals might also just have rules about the specific specs of your film. So they might only take films that are 4K, for example. If your dream festival only accepts films that are under 14 minutes, then it helps you understand that you need to make a film that is less than 14 minutes so that you can use a bit of that extra time for credits as well. But setting goals, of course, isn't just about festivals. It's also about what you can achieve creatively and practically. For example, let's say that your ultimate goal is to create a film like Avengers Endgame. So of course, if you haven't made a film before, then that would be quite an ambitious goal, and it might at this time be out of reach. But it doesn't mean that you have to scrap that goal altogether. Absolutely not. I would probably say that that is more of a long-term goal, and then what you can do is set a series of shorter-term goals that will help you reach that end goal, or endgame, if you will. If you have an ambitious film like Avengers Endgame as a long-term goal, then what you would do is you would plan for several other films in the meantime, and so perhaps your next project might focus on learning more about the VFX side of things, and then the film after that, you might prioritize special effects makeup, and then the film after that, you might focus on learning how to do set building. Each project that you work on is a stepping stone toward that larger goal. But other than that, regardless of what your long-term goals might be, doing some of these shorter goals in the meantime might help you learn things that you didn't know beforehand, which would then help create additional goals. Or it might steer your long-term goal in a different direction altogether. Along the way, you can also create additional goals. Some of these, of course, would be something like building a skilled team, perhaps networking, or even experimenting with different distribution methods. So you might go for self-distribution, where you take care of it all yourself, or you might look for an external distributor who can sort of take care of those things for you. Some of these goals will help you grow not just as a filmmaker, but as a professional and someone that can treat this business as an actual business rather than just a creative outlet. That's probably one of the great things about film, is that it can do both. I think one important thing to remember when you are setting goals for your film project, and this is something that can work with any aspect of your life really, is setting SMART goals. S-M-A-R-T. You may have heard this before, but just in case, I'll go through it really quick. S is for specific. Clearly define your goal. As small or ambitious as it might be, make your goal as clear as possible. So instead of saying, I want to make a big movie in the next 20 years. Instead, you could try to fine-tune that timeline, and you could also be a bit more specific as to what a big film would mean. Setting a specific goal could be something like, I am going to make a 10-minute short film for this particular film festival, and I'm going to be doing it next year. The M stands for measurable. So make it trackable. And some things that do help with this would be the film festival due dates. If you have a due date, then that is a pretty clear deadline of when you need to get this done. And having that deadline will help you kind of set some of your other dates. You can kind of estimate how much time you might need to actually edit the film. Then that will sort of tell you when the film needs to be filmed by as well. And of course, once you know how many film days you'll need, then you'll be able to understand when it is that your planning stages need to be finished. So essentially you're deciding what your goal is, and then you're reverse engineering and working your way backwards to find out when it is that you actually need to start working on this, as well as the time frame for each different stage of production. A is for achievable. Now, of course, working in film, the word achievable can be a little bit hard to imagine because essentially in filmmaking, there are a lot of creative ways to make anything happen if you have the right skills. But it's just very similar to what I was saying before, and it comes with a little bit of testing and practice, whereas with each film, you just try a couple of new things, and with each project, you get a little bit better and better working toward those ultimate goals. Another part of having an achievable goal is being realistic with not just your skills, but also your resources. So if you're writing a script that requires a 10,000 orc army, I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to find 10,000 people that are going to help you out with this. That being said, there might be some creative ways around it, like some kind of 3D modeling software. There's plenty of things that can create digital clones, etc. There's ways around it. But what I'm trying to say is, think about your resources and what it is that you can actually achieve. If you don't have 10,000 people, you can't do that. But also, if you don't know how to use the software to create these digital clones, then that might not necessarily be an option as well, unless you have ample time to learn that new skill. The next thing is keep it relevant. That's why it helps to have one of those long-term goals, because it kind of keeps you set on a certain path. So everything that you're doing is working toward that goal, and it sort of helps you from steering off path and going towards other goals that might not actually be as fulfilling or rewarding for your particular lifestyle. You set that long-term goal, and it helps you align your shorter-term goals to reach that destination. And the last one is T, which stands for time-bound. We spoke about this earlier, which is setting deadlines. And again, thankfully, a lot of film festivals will already set that deadline for you, which doesn't really give you much of a choice, so you better get onto it. For me, I like to find a bit of a balance between what is achievable, but also what is ambitious. So like I said before, I like to make most of the project achievable while having just a few of those aspects that sort of force us to stretch and grow and learn something new. So there will be at least a few elements in each project that I do where at the time I have no idea how we're going to make it happen, but we do have enough time to learn. So that's probably a good way for you to approach it as well. Each little project, try to learn just a couple of new things, and then over a number of projects and over a period of time, you'll realize that you have enhanced your skills quite a bit. So as you plan your next project, think about your goals. Where do you want your film to go? What do you want to achieve creatively? And how can this project help you grow? Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below and tell me, what are your filmmaking goals? They could be long-term goals, short-term goals, or something in between. Let's hear them, and don't forget to subscribe because it helps us create more videos just like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.